Hey, hey, BA fam, it's Mandy Money. I don't even know, beyond. I just had this conversation. So I'm coming back to you guys to introduce today's guest. And I'm just sort of like, the endorphins that you get from doing something really good for you, like going for a walk or going for a run. I feel that tingly sensation of like, that was such a great conversation. I met such a beautiful soul and just someone who is like salt of the earth, so down to earth, but so accomplished and isn't even done, is going on a new journey for herself. And her name is Deesha Dyer. Let me tell you about my new bestie, Deesha Dyer. She is a former White House social secretary. And if you listen to the show, it's not what you think. That job is not what I thought it was at all. It's way it's way cooler. It involves things like Prince not wanting to change outfits to take a picture with Mr. and Mrs. President Obama. It involves Stevie Wonder just being like casually in a room and her not even being nervous because he's just there all the time. It involves picking out what fruits and goodies are going to be in the Obama's hotel room when they arrive on their vacation in Australia. Come on, y'all. This was such an incredible conversation. And Deesha is here because she has a book that just came out. And I'm going to tell you all about it. It's called Undiplomatic: How My Attitude Created the Best Kind of Trouble. It has not only been endorsed by our forever First Lady herself, but by so many others. She is more than just a former White House social secretary, though. She is a dedicated public servant. I love that I'm doing this intro after I got to meet her because I can even add more color. She is a Philly native. So, I had to show off the fact that I know what a John is. And she's probably going to be like, God, she did not say it out loud. Did I do it okay? Any Philly BA? Did I do John right? Anyway, she is born and bred from Philly, lives in DC, is a world traveler, is someone who did not take a traditional path in her career, even her education, y'all. And I love when a badass woman takes the unbeaten path and ends up shining because of it. Every step that she took on her journey led her to, go exactly where she was and where she will continue to go. And it's just beautiful. From three, not one, not two, but three stabs at getting a college degree to going back and getting her associates at community college, from leaving her full-time career to go be an unpaid White House intern at 30 something. Y'all, this is a woman with courage. This is a woman who's not afraid to turn over a blank page and see what she can do with it. And I just know that you'll be so inspired the same way that I was. So without further ado, here is today's guest, my conversation with Deesha Dyer. Okay, so first of all, easy question, start us all off. How did you end up in the Obama White House?
Yes. And so I ended up there starting with a White House internship. And so I went back to college when I was 29 years old. And so I was going part-time community college, all I could afford. That's the only college that would accept me. And that was when all the buzz about Barack Obama was happening in the world. And I think you could probably remember it was like electric. I mean, you could not go anywhere without seeing that Hope poster, without seeing Black folks with like the pins and putting pictures of the family in their house. And it'd be like, do you even know these people? The plates, like the T-shirts. and so I was captivated like everybody else, I think. Right. And I was a community leader. So I'd always been in the community. And so I got an application for the White House internship in September of 2009. I got it for that class starting, but I got it before. And it basically said, Deesha, you do so much with community. I was doing a bunch with youth. I've always for years been a mentor. And can you pass this on to students the new Black president, because that's what we called them, the Black president.
So they reached out to you. Who was they?
Well, so they meaning like it was like the state senators, like the local people who were working on the Obama campaign. So they were on a listserv, and they got it from some listserv. They sent it to all these community leaders and just people they knew that had access to young people. And I was one of them. So that is how I got it. It was to pass on. It wasn't for me. Yeah. It was like, Deesha, some people. And I looked at the application. I was like, well, it looks like I'm some people, because
I love that you were like, or I could just take this from
or I could just not make them competition. And so I looked at it, and lo and behold, there was no age requirement, no school requirement, besides like you had to be active in college and you had to write some essays. I was a hip hop journalist. So I was like, I can do this. And so I did. And then they chose me as an intern. So yeah. That's how
That's
I got
incredible.
there. Yeah.
I mean, I know it wasn't post, I feel like during when he was actually elected, it would have been insane, the number of
Yeah.
applications, but
It was
it probably
2009.
already was insane because
Yeah.
he
So
was such
everybody
a
was like,
star.
amazing, and
Yeah.
everybody wanted to work for him or figure out how to work for him, and
Yeah.
so the internship was like a good way for like the young politicos to like, but most of them weren't black, and they weren't,
Mm.
they were all from fancy places,
Hmm.
and but then I got there and met some that weren't, and I was like, you are my people, like you
Yeah.
are my people. So yeah.
So what was that internship? What does that even entail? How was it, like a 3-month thing? And then
Yes.
was it extended
It was
from there?
not. So it was exactly 3 months. It was semester. It was like basically like a semester or quarters, I guess, whatever. And it
Hmm.
was September through December. And I got put in the scheduling and advance department, which is a department that does the traveling and the schedule for the president and first lady. And it's definitely not the department I wanted, because I wanted the office of the first lady, because like, who don't want to work with Michelle
Obvi.
Obama?
Just to
And they were
steam
like,
her Reem
yeah,
Acro gowns
yeah,
and
I'm just
all that.
like,
Yeah.
what do you need? Like, you need 2 coffees and sugar in your coffee. I was ready to do whatever.
Hmm.
But I got in scheduling in advance, and it was great because I was 31. So being a 31-year-old intern is not typical. And so I got a lot of work that I think a lot of usually staffers got, or like I just knew how to operate in a work environment that maybe the younger folks didn't, not because of anything wrong with them. They just were younger and
You
not
had life
experienced as I
skills.
was. Exactly. And so I did that for 3 months, and then I left after that was over. Great experience, had a wonderful time. Got home and went back to my regular job, but I just felt different. I was like, I just accomplished this amazing thing.
Mm.
I got to figure out a way to do more with my, like, to do something else. And so I quit my job. And about a week later of quitting my job, putting in my notice at my job, I got a call from the White House for a full-time job. So then I moved back down to DC, summer of 2010, and started and left January 20th, 2017.
Were you really working at Obopom?
I was.
That is
I
so
was working at
chic.
Obama. I was working there before. So she. I work at the French store. I
Oh,
was working there before. Before like I even applied for the White House. So
yeah.
Aubon Payne was like my teenage years leading into like my 20s, and then I stopped working there once I had like a day job, and then was college hip. I was writing, a peer counselor, so I stopped it at that point. But yeah, but that was my play. It's basically how I ate in my 20s, I would say, is working there.
I love that you are a 30 something intern.
Mm-hmm.
That should be normalized.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you get it sounds crazy, but you need a lot of like, you need to be courageous as hell
Mm-hmm.
to put yourself in a position. A lot of people, the pride would get in the way. I'm not
Yeah.
an intern. I should be this by now. I'm 30,
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like mindset process for you? How did you know that was what I should be doing right now?
Yeah, I think that I was definitely scared like everybody else. I think, for me, I never had anything to fall back on. Like, I didn't have parents that were rich. I didn't have I didn't know anything. Like, matter of fact, I'm having my first call today, with this podcast with a financial advisor. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I did not, like, this is my first time, because there's a shame associated with so much you don't know. But I think that I knew that I was a leader in the community. I knew that, like, everything Barack Obama was talking about and what he was like was exactly what I was like. I wasn't in it I didn't think I was going to work at the White House, but I was so captivated by what we could do with government once I learned a little bit more. And I learned more listening to Barack Obama, and then kind of like diving into stuff. Before, I was like, politics, what? Like, what is this? Like, no, this is dumb. This is like not for Black people. Absolutely not. And so I think that the application, honestly, Mandi, was so easy for the internship. Like, it was like, fill out an application and then
I
like
love
write
an
an
easy app.
essay. And I was like, well, I'm a writer, so I can write an essay. Like, it was like almost so easy that I was like, why not try? So I think
Mm.
my courage came from knowing that I could try, not that I would get it. Like, it was
Yeah.
more like, well, I know I could put the application in. So I'm just going to do that.
You
And
put
if it
yourself
doesn't
out
work,
there.
then it doesn't work. It's fine. So that's the kind of the way I looked at it a little bit.
Well, you brought up finances, so let's talk about your finances. Do
What
you get paid as
finances,
an
child?
intern? What
Girl,
happened?
no, no, mm-mm. You
Not
used
a
to not.
cent.
They do now because they've come to their common senses that like that's
Yeah.
disgusting. But back then it was unpaid labor.
Mm.
They give you money to get to work. They give you a Metro card so you can make
Oh,
sure you can get to
neat.
the job. But you're like, great, I can work, but I can't eat. But
Well,
that's
at least you
cool.
were working on events, right? You just like, did you like take some snacks?
And yeah,
Go to the, or you plan a lot of tastings? We got to
I was a lot of
taste. We got to taste.
that was my senior year. That was my last year when I was an employee. But during
Oh,
an
okay.
internship, like your events are more like rallies. So there's
Mm,
no like, and you're an intern, so you definitely want to be seen grabbing a Cliff Bar, right? You're just like somebody can see me. But I was very. This is the thing about courage and the thing about going for things is it's an unpaid internship. I was like, I'm just gonna try, and if I get it, then I'll figure it. I'll get a job at night. Like I'm a hustler. I'm fine. I go back to Alba paid. I'm fine.
because you're in school full time. Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I'm in school full
Okay.
time, but I'm well part time. But then I also
Okay.
had a full time job. So I was like, so my whole thing was, I'll figure it out. Like I don't mind working nights and weekends somewhere. That's not a big thing for me at a grocery
Okay.
store. I don't mind that. So, but my job that I had, they actually did a fundraiser for me. I didn't know, and they raised $4,000, and then my CEO of the company gave me 10,000. So I
Wow.
ended up going to DC with $14,000 that I didn't know I was going to have. And I always tell people that because I'm just like, I didn't know about that money. I
From
didn't know about
Obo,
that
huh?
money. Huh? No,
From
my
Obo
CEO from
Con?
my real estate job. I had a real estate job.
Of course you
So
did,
I
because you
was
a hustler.
I
Okay.
was a secretary. Yes, I was a secretary.
That is
And it was just
incredible.
like, that's why you have to take chances. Because it's just like,
Mm,
yeah, I didn't know how I was going to pay for it. But if I would have focused on the fact that I couldn't afford it because it was unpaid, I would have never tried to
mm,
not know I was going to get $14,000. I always tell people, like, go after it. And if you you'll figure, I promise you it'll work out.
mm,
But like, if you're too scared to even try, then the universe won't meet you halfway. You know what I mean? So I got very lucky and
mm,
being like, and that's also what gave me the ability to quit my job later. Because I was like, I got that money. So I quit my job after
yeah.
that. So yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel very connected to that story because when I was in college, I remember much smaller scale, but I feel like we both are in journalism. I didn't know you were a hip hop journalist in your
Yes.
past life.
Yes. I
So
didn't go to school for it.
you don't have to.
I started writing about it.
I'm not here
Yeah.
to endorse a 4-year degree for something you can just do and get better at. But
Where'd
anyway,
you go to school?
University of Georgia.
Okay, nice. Okay.
Yeah, they have a good journalism program.
Mhm.
Anyhow, not unless you were graduating into the Great Recession when,
Yeah.
no, anyway.
Mm.
But when I was in college, I had applied and gotten a really coveted magazine internship in New York City. I couldn't afford
Mm.
the airfare to get there. I was
Mm.
going to get paid once I started to work. And I remember asking the dean or the dean of the college or someone in higher up, some old white guy,
Mm.
and sitting in his office, and I was like, "Is there anything you can do? Because I'm like gonna go represent Grady, but I can't because I can't afford the airfare because I was like paying my own rent anyway." And one of the professors I found out later had cut a check like from his personal wallet, and that
Wow.
happened 2 times in my life. Once when I was 12, some teachers got together to make it possible for me to go on a school trip that I couldn't afford. And then anyway, so it's beautiful. It's so hard. You don't want to be someone who puts a hand out, but if you
Right.
share what you're doing and your story,
Hmm.
people will want to support you.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
really beautiful.
Yeah. It's just the courage of putting it out there. When did you find out that the teachers did that when you were 12?
Oh, I wish I can't say that I went back to the school and someone was like, "Did you ever know that they really made it possible?" Logic taught me that, and my mother. We sort of put the pieces
Mm.
together because,
Hmm.
to pay for the flight, it wasn't like, here's a
Yeah.
check. It was, why don't you give me her flight details and we'll, get that taken care of.
Yeah.
For teachers to do that, teachers.
Yes. Yes.
Um, just incredible. And
Hmm.
yeah, if I ever got the chance to thank them, that would be amazing. I wouldn't be able to
Hmm.
do it in French, so they may feel like, what did they pay for?
What did they
Oh,
pay for? It was the
yeah,
Paris. Was the trip to Paris?
it was Paris. Yeah, I went to Versailles. It's a long story. Don't take me down this.
Okay, I
I
won't.
love
Okay, I won't.
I love a tangent, but no one wants to hear about it.
I love that though. I love that. No, I love that.
Maybe on
Hmm.
the after show.
Hmm.
Okay, so you get this call to go back full time after
Hmm.
you have quit your real estate job.
Hmm. As a
Okay,
secretary.
as
Hmm.
a secretary, your professional brand was so great. They were like, we love working with Deesha. We got to have her back.
Hmm.
So then is it like, okay, quit everything. I'm starting this brand new career. Were you still in school? What
I
happened?
was. And so I started back at the White House June of 2010, and I got put in the same department as a full-time job. And then I kept going to school nights online, and then the weekends I would go home to Philly and go to my Saturday class. And so I would literally
Wow.
take the Megabus or Greyhound, whichever one.
Oh man.
Could not afford no Amtrak. So I would take the Megabus or the Greyhound back to Philly, and then I graduated with my associate's degree in 2012. So I was going to community college. So I
Mm.
graduated 2 years later while I was at the White House. But before that, I got promoted. I'd already gotten a promotion by then, and then I got promoted two more times after that. Like my degree had nothing to do with it.
What were you studying? I was going
It
to
was
ask.
women and gender studies, but it
Oh,
was more
okay.
for me. Like the White House,
Mm.
I worked in the operations side. So it's different from
Hmm.
like a policy side. Like operations is a very logistical, like learned kind of a job versus like you got to study for it. Like operations is on the job training. Like you got to be quick. Like,
Hmm.
and so I just wanted to finish for me. It had nothing to do
Hmm.
with the job. I could have just stopped going to school, but I was like, this is like my third or fourth time at college. So at this point, I'd already stopped writing because I can't write about like hip hop and also work at the White House. So I was doing the White House in school, and that's all I did. And eventually got promoted to the senior position of social secretary, which was the
Mm.
one that like did the state dinners and all of that stuff. So yeah.
And as you are getting those promotions,
Mm-hmm.
I I wish there were more examples like yourself where you didn't have to take a traditional 4-year college degree
Mm,
route to get somewhere. So if you're looking back at what it was that kept you continuing to get
yeah.
opportunities in that environment, what would you say,
Yeah.
like, humble brag on yourself, what was it
Yeah.
that was leading to those opportunities?
I will say, Mandy, I would say like the first thing for me is curiosity. Like I was so curious about what else I was able to do, like how far I
Mm,
could go. I was just so enamored with even the fact that I got chosen as an intern. Then I got hired. And then
yeah.
like this job came open to travel with the president and first lady all over the world to do their hotels. And I'm like, they stay in 5 star. That means I stay in 5 star. And I was like, this is the life.
Were
Like
you on Air Force
that's
One?
yes. I was like, this is a job. Yeah. So I had that job for I traveled with them and I got to go to all these different countries and stay in these 5 star places and set up the hotels. Then I got promoted to deputy social secretary because I wanted to like bring the community in. Like I wanted to have a say in who the guest lists were, who was the choir singing, who was
Yeah, when you
whatever.
when I read social
Mhm.
secretary, what is that even? I thought it was like
Yeah.
social media,
I know. Oh,
social
child,
network,
please.
like
No, I
the
could
old.
never. Them.
Okay.
They need a young person for that. No,
Yeah.
social secretary. Social secretary is a job that is a senior position in the White House, which is like you're basically in charge of all the parties and events. Anything that happens in the
Okay.
executive mansion in 1600 Pennsylvania, you're in charge of. So
IRL social. You guys, this is
yes,
real social
yes, this is
experiences.
like social secretary, like the
Okay.
guest list, the food, the music, everything that happens there. Like you get the direction, obviously, from the president and first lady, and then you
Mm.
help execute their vision of anything private, anything professional. So state dinners, July 4th parties, press briefings. So that was my department, and it sits in the first lady's office. So the social secretary, and it's like an old school term, right? But
Yeah,
social
I love that
secretary
it's
is
sitting in
like
the first. I almost said Michelle's
yes.
office.
Well,
It's
it's
will
funny.
always be her
It
office.
sits in her office, but then you work for both of them. Like you still like are
Yeah.
doing all because anything that happens in the house is your jurisdiction. And
That
so,
says so much
yeah,
about when and I hate to be heteronormative, but one of the
no,
tropes that I find myself falling into, I don't know if you would also identify, is that our social life is my masterpiece.
yes, yes,
It's my marbled slab that I
hmm
fucking chiseled into this
yes,
like statue, and my husband doesn't appreciate it because he just gets to show up to the barbecues and the
Ju-
cookouts and the
right.
pool invites, and I'm like, do you know what I have had to do to
Go
set us
through,
up for this?
yes, to make
So
sure that like everything is set, that all of our, and I think that, and I love those. I was doing those things before the White House, like in the community with like HIV/AIDS work or whatever else I was doing, and so I just took everything I did and like it came back. Even like the hip hop writing, it was like I wrote about hip hop because I didn't like the way that women were always portrayed, and people like didn't glorify like the MCs and the break dancers, the B girls, and I'm like
mm,
producers. I'm like, there's so many dope women in hip hop, but y'all just talking about the dancers. And so the fact that like my last job at the White House was like essentially part of it was a party job. I was like, oh, this is perfect. Like, of course we can bring in Questlove or Jazzy Jeff or whoever because like they're from
God.
Philly. And I know, so it was like a whole what goes around comes around. And when you think that like you're doing this hip hop journalism, I just got paid $10 an article and just writing about whatever, and everybody else is going to business and law school, you're just like, how can this actually benefit me? But that's what I love to do. And then how it benefited me, who knew years later I'd be at the White House throwing hip hop parties. So,
No wonder you wrote a book.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
No wonder. The stories you must have to tell. Okay.
So many stories.
What is one anecdote? Like there was this, here's what I don't want to lead the witness, but like tell me something surprising about like one of those, like just a funny, like you never believe so-and-so, I don't know, did this silly thing, not silly, but like kind of funny thing at an event or something.
Yeah, I would say, everything, every day there was different and everything I feel like was I think that the one thing that I always tell people, and it's actually not it's not in the book actually, but when Prince came, it was really interesting because Prince, he's Jehovah's Witness. And so he didn't celebrate holidays or anything or birthdays. So we would always want him to come for like, Mrs. Obama's birthday or something with July. It's like, obviously a celebration. And he'd be like, no, I don't.
But he wrote one of the biggest like party songs, like Party Like It's 1999.
So he parties, but like he doesn't celebrate holidays. And so we had to figure out getting Prince to the White House for something because Mrs. Obama we all love Prince, but like, but figure it out. And then like, figure out how to do it on like the sly, you know what I mean? So people did not know that Prince came until like it leaked. He actually leaked it himself. Like he said it at a concert, but it was one of these things where he refused to take like a formal picture in the same outfit he performed in. So we don't have any formal pictures of Prince with the Obamas, just one on stage when he's like, oh, I'll be back. Like, he's like, let me come back and like actually tour, see everything. And then he passed away. But I was just like, but he was so particular. So particular. He's like, I can't take any photos in the same outfit. And we were like, you're Prince. You could do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You can live here. Do you want to move in? Like,
he doesn't have like a handler with a bag of extra clothes.
Yeah, I think he did, but it still was like, he had to be in his spot to change and we kept saying like, do you want to come back tomorrow? Like, do you want to come early?
So you're you're seeing eye to eye with Prince.
Yes. Yes.
How do you cope?
I almost lost my mind.
How do you cope?
I think that the good thing is I worked for Barack and Michelle Obama. So it's kind of like,
I forgot
there are a lot of people who were just like, I was always even keeled because I was like, this is
everyone else is freaking the F out.
Yes. And so it was just like, this is her house. But I think when Prince came, because that party had like Prince, Stevie Wonder. And I remember being like, I was in the room with Prince and Stevie Wonder. And I was like, this is like my 80s. Like, this is like my 80s dream has come true. Like, I was born in 78. And so I'm like, wow. That whole era of like MJ, Stevie,
God, I wish Tiffany
Madonna,
was here.
Prince.
Tiffany has been to the White House twice every year before the State of the Union. She was invited to go to the State of the Union with influencers, like social media influencers, and sit at the White House and watch it. And then Jill Biden would come through and say hi. Would you have been the person to
arrange that? Yes.
Okay.
Like from the invites to the guest list to making sure like once they got in the house that they knew where to sit. So myself and then obviously a whole team of other people, right, that work with that are so amazing, like the executive residence team, like the chefs and the butlers and all that. But that was my job to like, like when we had an event, like help put all of that together from the top. So yep. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So tell me, what was the most starstruck? Like where you were really in fear that you wouldn't be able to do something you needed to do? I would
say, Prince and Stevie Wonder, but not Stevie because he came a lot, but I'd say Prince. But I would say probably our the last huge concert we had, well, second to last.
The epic one, that's what I was going to ask about. Yeah, it was all black, literally every melanated person.
And everyone talks about that being our last party, but we had another party that was like secretive after that. We had like another party January, I think it was January 7th, if I remember correctly. That party was October, the BET party. And then we had another party in January. But the October party was like The Roots, Jill Scott, BBD. It was like, again, and I just was standing by the stage like just dancing by the stage, like trying to be professional, but also being like, This is my jam, But the funny thing about that concert, which is so hilarious, is that the biggest conversations that we had was whether when they were singing Poison, BBD, if they could say big butt and a smile at the White House. And I was like, yeah, we don't care. Like at that point, also we were leaving. So we
Yeah,
were like,
like
we don't care.
senior, it's like senioritis.
Yeah, especially
Do
because
whatever you
it
want.
was also airing after the election. So we were like, we really don't care. So, and once the election went Ari, we were like, thank God we made that decision of just not caring. But that was probably the starstruck moment of like seeing all the people I grew up with like on stage and like hearing BBD sing like Poison. And I was just De La
That
Soul.
girl
And it was
is
just
that
like,
song Poison.
yes. De
Wow.
La Soul was there. It was
It
just
was black,
super dope.
blackety black,
Yeah.
black. Oh
Yes.
man. What
Yes.
a at the time did you feel the pressure of being a part of like living history?
100%. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that part of it was also like my job was a public facing job. Well, my work was public facing. So,
Mm.
there was not room for mistakes. Like, unfortunately, like all these nice mantras that we say about like, it's okay to make a mistake, like, okay if you fail, like, that's not like the White House. It's like you have one time. Like,
Mm.
that party's not going to happen again. The state dinner's not going to happen again. So if I mess up, something could be on the front of the paper and nobody thinks like, oh, the chef or the butler or whoever, they're like, Deesha Dyer is a social secretary. So like she
Mm.
messed up somewhere. So it was a
Because you
lot.
represent them.
There was a lot of pressure. But I would say that I was very thankful that I had such an experienced team that was so great that I was like,
Mm.
I'll be okay. Like they taught me everything so much. So it was just like, I'll be all right. So yeah.
The publicist and the email pitching and the connecting with sources, like I don't know, you probably had more than just this gentleman Jackson, but he did such a stellar job, y'all. And I'm going to read one of his summarized
So
questions
great.
because I just think one, it is so effusively like he loves you, I can tell. And two, I want to ask you about it. It says, authenticity for Deesha isn't worth sacrificing. Deesha was most fulfilled when she was not stifling her personality or her blackness. She loved bringing marching bands, gospel choirs, art exhibitions, and dancers to the Obama White House, seeing the looks on their faces, the same awestruck look that she had when she first walked in those doors. Isn't that so nice? You organized an all-black choir to sing for Pope Francis and an audience of 12,000 people on the White House lawn. What does it feel like to look back
Yeah.
at those memories?
Number one, Jackson is amazing.
I will be reaching
say,
out, Jackson. Just
yes, he's so amazing. What I will say is when I look back on those times, I'm really proud of myself because it would have been very easy, I think, to bend to tradition, especially at a place like the White House. And I'm not saying tradition's always bad. Just to be very clear, tradition doesn't always include us, nor does it include culture at all. So I'm like, if I have an opportunity to be the one who puts the choirs in front of the president and first lady to choose or whatever, I'm going to make sure that it represents us. And I always felt like that with everything I did. I think I always say I had a black president, first lady, so I didn't have to, it wasn't like I had to convince them of anything. And when it came to the Pope, they were just like, Deesha, whatever you think is, we're good. And I was like, well, there's an old historic black Catholic church in here in DC called St. Augustine's. And I was just like, we never see black Catholic people. Like I can't even name 10 off the top. I'm like,
you're so right. As you said that, I didn't
no.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm just gonna go. Literally, I called them cold call, and I was like, you got a choir? And they were like, yep. I said, when do you rehearse? They said Wednesday. I said, great, I'll be there. They was so last minute that they're not even in the program. Like that is how last minute that John was.
Wow.
It was so last
You're
minute.
Like, I'm sending the bus. Get on it.
Yeah, get on it. Like, and they sang Total Praise, which is in the black community. And I wanted people at home or whoever was watching to be like, oh my God, this black choir is singing the song that's known in the black church, Total Praise. And I wanted people to feel included in that, not in a corny sense, but just like someone there is black, like somebody, like this is a black White House. And so I didn't know like how it was going to go. And I looked over and the president swaying, the Pope is swaying, and I was like, yes,
the
we
Pope
did it,
swaying.
Yes, I was so excited. I was so tired. And I looked over and I was like, but I think that for me, like being able to bring those moments forward and not being afraid. Like at that point, I was at the top of the food chain. Like Like, what are you going to say about me? We got 2 more years. We're going to leave. Like, what are you going to say? So I didn't, opinions didn't matter too much to me when it came to my job. As long as I had the opinions and the buy-in of the president and first lady, I was
Like, I'm
good. So
just going to CC Barack here for
yeah,
visibility.
yeah. Just
He thinks it's a great
per my
idea.
last email, Mrs. Obama said, so, and they
Imagine.
trusted me, which was so amazing. Like they were just like this, ragamuffin around the way. They were just like good, and I was like, okay. So
Let's
yeah,
talk. You mentioned you were so tired. And I know
yeah.
that let's not sugarcoat that experience. Like, it's
Mm,
intense. I mean, I'm talking
mm-hmm,
as if I know. I do not, but I've read Jackson's
mm-hmm,
incredible summary. But
mm-hmm,
you mentioned you have high blood pressure. Like, talk to us
mm-hmm,
about the physical, the mental, the emotional demands of that job and how you
mm-hmm.
coped and learned to
Yeah,
cope.
yeah, and I think it's not just original to me. I think a lot of Black women, just number one, just systems be systeming. But I feel,
Mm,
for me, is I had a very lack of self esteem. Although I had courage and I love my job, I was still always looking around like, am I qualified for this? Because I don't have all these pedigrees that everyone else has. But I think
mm,
that the stress on top of that, on top of like the pressure on top of me not taking care of myself, me like eating nonstop, like whatever I wanted to. And also my job, we walked around the White House, but like I sat down a lot too. So I think all of these things added together like took my high blood pressure to an extreme. And so it's in my family, but the type
same.
2 diabetes came later. That came last year. It came last year. But I was always pre-diabetic since and I think a
Mm.
lot of it, we are, I think, a people that it's just like diet and exercise, diet, exercise. And
Let's
I'm like,
move. Michelle's whole
yeah. And you're like,
campaign.
that's great. But also, there's a lot of stress and external factors that contribute to us having
Hmm.
diabetes and high blood pressure. And you can work out, you can eat well. But if your stress is not reduced, like it's going to affect you. So I think that I got a lot
Hmm.
of that there. I was sick, and I kept going and going, which then taught me the lesson of just like no job ever anywhere is, worth your health. I was in the hospital twice, and it wasn't
Mm.
the president and first lady's doing. It was my own, like, I gotta be perfect. I gotta do this, and I can't take a day off. It was so that the book really focuses on the lesson of taking care of ourselves because, like,
Mm.
I'm feeling the effects now. You know what I mean? But I always, when I tell young people, I sound like an old lady. They're just like, all right, whatever. And I'm like, all right,
I'm in your pocket. I am in the pocket of your audience.
yes, yes.
When I
It's
type
just
out,
like,
yes.
mhm.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, how's your kidney? Check on your kidney numbers, because that's all my dad is. My whole family, it's like
Mm,
everybody has kidney failure, end stage, whatever. And
really?
it starts with high blood pressure and it starts with
Mm-hmm.
diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm sorry. I don't want to like, I'm not a source of like knowledge on that, but
Yeah.
their struggles caught me like seeing, like I connected the dots because my dad,
Mm.
kidney failure. I'm like, well, my kidneys are great. But when I was pregnant, I had gestational diabetes. I was
Um.
very close to being pre diabetic
Mm-hmm.
after my pregnancy when I was supposed to be like, in the clear.
Mm-hmm.
And once I went through all that stuff with my family, my dad in the hospital, my uncle passing, my grandpa passing, all from kidney, like complications of
Oh,
kidney
men
failure,
too. Yeah.
I was like, high blood pressure, diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
So, got to get ahead of this. And so here I am today with my nutritionist
Yes,
being
as
late to
we
a
as we
podcast because
talked
I got to
about.
flip a fish.
No,
I don't
but you
want to
know what
overcook my
though?
cod.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and that's the thing is like whatever it takes. And I just try to get that message across because we also, as Black women, like we go into these environments that are full of aggressions and bias and stuff. And so we are working overtime to just survive and live. Well, that takes up energy and stress. Like that's gonna make me
Mm-hmm.
reach for chicken fingers. Like I'm like, that's easy. And there is a science to it. So again, I'm not an expert either. I just
Mm-hmm.
know that for me, I wanted people to be real about like I experienced that at the highest, most glamorous job, and I still felt that way, right? And so,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully, by the end of the book, people are just like, I don't tell people how to live. I just say, just watch, just hopefully this motivates you to go check yourself out and then watch the environment in which you're in. But yeah, the pressure was, unreal. But a lot of it, the president, first lady, like when I went to the hospital towards the end, they were just like, Deesha, like take time off. Like, we don't want you, we want you here for us in the end. Like, we want you with
Mm.
us. And they made me take
Just
a
tell
week
me
off of
Michelle put
work.
her hand on your knee and just gave you a
Yeah,
real
it's
like
hugs.
auntie talk.
It's hugs. It's all the hugs in the world. And they're just like, and the president puts his hand on my shoulder, and he's like, you need to go home for a week. Like, and to take a week off of that job to sit at home. And it's just like, what is happening? Like, no, I need to be working. And they were like, no. And that was December 2016. So they were just like, we want you with us at the end, January. And I was just like, okay, hard.
There's some special people.
They are. They are so great.
I bet your
really
shoulder still feels warm.
It does. I mean, I still see them. So it's like, I still get very blessed and lucky. I get to still travel with them once in a while. So yeah.
So talk about your, I mean, I don't want to say second act because you've had so many reinventions of Deesha.
So many reinventions.
Do you look back on those reinventions as like, for me, I through the podcast, I do a lot of career and negotiation coaching. So I help women really stand in their power. And
let me write that down so I can remember.
Please do.
Yes.
If you need help negotiating your contracts, your speaking fees, let me know.
I think I saw that on something. I think I saw that on your Instagram or something.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I might have noticed you liked a reel.
I probably did because I told my girlfriends I'm very nosy. I'm nosy.
Oh, be nosy. Yeah.
But I'm nosy, but now on Facebook, which I'm not on that much. I'm only on for the book.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you're on, but it has a thing that says add friend. And if you scroll like too fast, it'll click add friend. And so you got to be real careful. And I did that and I was like, oh shit. And I was like, so
they probably made that so because they're like, we need new users. So
yeah, exactly.
Get people on here more.
Yeah. Yeah. But the negotiations is.
Yes. Because I can't imagine. Talk to me about, did you negotiate any of your pay? You can't, it's got to be so hard because it's like, do you want to work for the Obamas or no? Like, how dare you? But I bet
you would be mortified probably because I accepted the job like when it was offered to me. Like, and remember, this is also 2010, right? So it was like I accepted the job like on the spot, like called me and I was like, I'll take it. I didn't even know how much I was getting paid. And so I started the paperwork and I noticed that the pay was less than what I got paid as a real estate secretary. And I was like, I'm taking a pay cut. I mean, I was just like, but I was like, it's the White House. I'll figure it out. And I had that money saved up. So I was like, I'll figure it out.
14K. All right.
Yeah, but there was zero negotiating.
Oh, Deesha. But then you left. This is when you came back as okay, but this is the thing when you don't negotiate at the beginning. So then what, I don't want you don't have to say numbers unless you want to. I don't believe that that's anything. There's no shame in it. Like how much were you making and then how much were you in the beginning? And when you left the White House, what was your take home pay at the time?
Yeah. So when I went as my first job there, I was making $38,000 a year, and then it went up to 45, then 65, and then 85, and then 118,000 was the last pay that I had, and it's all public also anyway. But like it's my final pay, and it's interesting because I saw a review about the book and somebody, I mean, I'm not supposed to read them, but I do, and somebody was like, she clearly has poor financial planning. I talk about how I left and I only had $8,000 saved up because I was helping family and I was paying. Like people don't understand like the back of, especially with Black people, there's a lot going on that you pay bills, or I was paying old student loans, like all these things.
I'm impressed that you had $8,000.
Yeah, I had $8,000 saved up and after my vacation pay and all that. And so I lived off of that for like a couple months until I was like, I gotta figure out what's next. And I filed for unemployment because that's what they teach you how to do that because they know you're going to be out of work or unless you got another job right after. So filed for unemployment before I went to the Ford Foundation and filled in for someone at Ford, and then went back to Ford full time and started making like adult people money. And that was just like, you couldn't tell me nothing. I got my apartment in Harlem. I was getting my nails done all the time. I was like, I was living in New York with a salary over $200,000 and something. And I was like,
which is just about like middle income in New York.
Yeah,
let's
in
be
New
honest.
York, right? Yeah.
Well, no, you got no kids, right?
No kids.
Oh, so you're living great. But add a kid or two to that, and you're like, oh, I'm poor.
No kids. And I had my little apartment in Harlem and was making great money at Ford. And then I left to go be a Harvard fellow. And And then,
Why
which
did you
was
say it like that? Like,
well, because now I think about it was great and I loved the fellowship, and now I'm like,
yeah.
that Ford money was really good. It was really good. And I
Did
just
you
went back to Ford.
negotiate that?
You know, you know what? I had a plan to going very high because I didn't realize how much, even though I did my research.
Yeah.
And Darren Walker, he's still the president there, was the president at the time, and was working directly for him. And he matched it. He came in, he's like, oh, that's what I was thinking too. And I was like, and I was so stunned that it was that high that I was just like, okay,
dang it.
well, this is what we're doing, right? But I went with the Ford last week for a book talk, and it was great. I love the place. But I think that, I'm just learning about negotiating, and like now that I have my own business, it's like learning about negotiating contracts because people don't want to come up off this money for your experience and time, and I'm just like, no, like I just have to be okay walking away if we're not going to come to
copy and paste some stuff from Jackson's press kit, like just be like, because they'll be like, here, take the money, blank check.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, I don't want to I also have my own business now. I left corporate. I was working for a big bank, and I left corporate in 2021. We can talk about that. I bet we could talk so much. It would be so much fun to talk to you about that.
Yes.
But negotiating I loved negotiating throughout my career. And with your, background, I think that people expect when you work in the White House that part of the job security is like, oh, don't worry, you're a White House staff. Like you'll get another job. They have jobs lined up for you. But you're saying that wasn't the case. They were like, here's the Department of Labor's website. You're going to file for your unemployment benefits right here. That's wild to me.
Yeah, well, it depends on who you are, right? Because if you're like white man who's like in their 30s, but I also worked till the very end. So there wasn't time for me to like network to look for jobs. Like I worked until the last day. So it wasn't a situation where I could look for a job. Not only that, but when a party changes over and the city changed from like Democrat to Republican, people are looking for workers, companies are, that can still get into the White House. And who do you know there to help our interest out? I didn't know anybody. So if you go from Democrat to Democrat, that might be a thing in the city where you could still like use your contacts. But going from Obama to Trump, I was like, I don't know anybody in that administration. Like, I wish I didn't know him. Like, I didn't know nobody. Like, so I wasn't as valuable. And I also wasn't, Mandy, I didn't understand. Like, my job was social secretary and I did my job, but policy, lobbying, all this stuff, like government relations departments, I didn't know any of that. Like, so while other people were able to learn those things, like I was so busy putting those people at tables or inviting them to stuff to get stuff done that like the jobs offers I got afterwards, which I don't see a problem with this, I just didn't want to do it, were like event planning things. And I was like, I'm not doing that. Not because I think there's something wrong with it. I just didn't want to do it. So I was pretty much out the drive for a while.
To like, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. What'd you say?
Oh no, I was out the drive for a while until then. Like, my friend worked at, the chief of staff for Darren Walker. And I was like, oh, a chief of staff, big philanthropy, blah, blah. So that's when I started to like put the pieces together of operations of what I was really good at and logistics. So yeah. Took a minute.
Our brains need some time. You're like, I don't have any contacts. It's the Trump presidency. What? I'm like, girl, I bet your iPhone is worth like bajillions of dollars.
Yeah.
Just your contacts.
And I have a lot of contacts I kept from the White House years too. Yeah.
Girl. Did you have to wear like any kind of, did you wear a uniform or something or like have a sash? I just feel like if I worked at the White House,
you'd have the sash.
I would just wear the sash.
A crown.
Like, I go to the library a lot to work on my book. I'm going to ask you for writing tips later.
Yes, please.
And there's this guy, I don't know. I just feel like I also worked at the public library back in college when I was, broke. And there's always like one like veteran who comes in like a wheelchair, and it is just festooned with all of the memorabilia, all the badges, and who knows what they all mean, but they're so proud. And I'm like, that would be me.
Here's my picture.
I would like pin the commemorative plates to me. I would have the hats. I would have like Michelle's endorsement because she endorsed your book. I would just like put that on the back. I mean, this is all. Look, I just have a podcast, and I already got the hoodie.
Like, look, I mean, I got my little earrings. These are my Undiplomatic earrings. So but I think that the thing is so about it is I didn't. I mean, Mandy, I was so still in shock that I had this 8 year. It was still like, And I didn't remember, I came to DC to work for them. So I didn't know about anything about the Hill. I didn't know nothing about I didn't know anything. Had I known, I would have probably networked more, like, especially when it came to embassies and international stuff, because my dream is to leave this country for like 2 years and live somewhere else.
Okay.
And I'm like, and everyone's like, Deesha, you have all these contacts. I'm like, right. But I'm just like now. So I'm like, it's going to happen. I say, I'm going to give it another year and then we're going to be out. But like, I didn't know. I just didn't know. I didn't know what Washington was. I didn't know idea.
Oh, now the book has come out. Did Michelle give you any writing tips? Did you ask her?
She did. She gave me a lot of, so she not only I'm gonna say less writing and more like, make sure about the money. She was like, remember you have your taxes. She was like, but remember that publishing companies, you're going to have to hire your own PR people and put the money aside for that. But she also really encouraged me just to like get it out. Like, don't try to be perfect when you write it, because I'm always worried that because of how I talk, I'm from Philly and I write how I talk. So I'm definitely these people that I definitely probably have misspellings. I did the comma in the wrong place. And I would get so caught up on that. And she's like, stop getting caught up on that and just tell your story. And she's like, remember, it's your perspective. It's the truth that you live. So she's like, not even me or the president can be like, that's not, because we didn't live the same perspective as you, although it was the same legacy and experience. And so she gave me that, feedback. And then she also told me, she's like, eventually you have to hand it in. She was like, don't get caught up in, I'm going to keep editing, make it better. I'm going to keep editing. She's like, eventually you can edit until it's due. Like you have to hand it in. Cause I was just like, and I was like that. I kept telling her, I was like, I just want to keep writing it over. Cause I think there's a different way. And she's like, you got to eventually get it in, and I'd be like, okay. So those are the tips that she gave me. Yeah.
We have the same publisher. I should have started with that. Krishan Trotman. Yes.
Oh yeah.
I'm a Legacy Lit.
I did not know that. When is your book coming out?
Legacy Liddy. I don't know. Whenever I finish it, I guess.
You were like, end the podcast.
Honestly, having you on, I'm like, oh, maybe this will count as like progress. Maybe Krishan will not remember that I haven't turned in chapter 3. It's been a crazy
she'll
year.
remember. Send me all the things. I'm really, Nicole, I'm really trying to, like, I feel like my friend Nicole tries to help me with negotiating, but I think she gets frustrated because she's like, Deesha, she was like, this is about business. Like, you want to be a really good person to everybody and be like, well, they only have, she's like, but then they pay somebody else, or you look at what they're doing and they got money to pay you. And I'm always like, okay, Nicole. So she's kind of like giving up. So I need your book.
Nicole, don't give up. Nicole, you can't give up.
I'm not
no, but there's every time. The thing is, people mistake negotiation skills as something that everyone knows you should ask for more. Like, I think a lot of people know you didn't know when you were 31. It was the White House. Right. I understand. Deer in headlights. Right. I would be the same. But I think intellectually, a lot of women know that to ask for more. But when you're a woman of color, it's like, are you going to get penalized? Are they going to say that you're difficult, that you're arrogant, that you're too ambitious? Who does she think she is? Yes. She should be lucky. Yes. Even though you have a whole White House on your goddamn resume. Yes.
or I think it's worse for me when it comes to negotiating more. Like, I had a company I worked for years, and I went to them like, okay, well, I've been doing this for 3 years. My scope of work versus what I do, there's 3 additional items on what I do. So I would like to be compensated for that. And they were just like, well, we'll just take some of those off. And I'm like, no, I'm already doing you know what I mean? So I'm like, Nicole's like, well, Deesha, before you do that again, before when they ask you to do something, if it's not in the scope of work, you have to, is this going to be an additional responsibility? It's how much it's going to be. And it was pulling teeth. It was pulling teeth. And it made me feel like, making me be like, am I asking too much?
I know, they will have you question everything.
And then I'm just like, remember y'all, that's taxes come out of that too. So I'm not even getting whatever you think you're giving me. I'm not even pocketing that. And I have a staff. So I'm just like, no. So
I developed
I'm ready for your book.
Thanks. I developed a consultancy compensation calculator. It's very simple, but it's basically everything. It's start from how much you want to make to comparable, pay ranges that you find. And then the end of the calculation is always automatically add 30%. Because taxes, fees, honestly, I could put it up to 40% depending on how well you're doing. And when those numbers, you see them, your eyes pop. But yeah, people do have that kind of budget. And
And
what I
where did
was,
you learn to do that? I know. Oh, sorry to cut you off, but like,
mm, uh, I had a white male mentor, a white male sponsor, I should say, not a mentor, a sponsor. He hired me. I was at Yahoo Finance. He plucked me and said, you can run a content team for my startup, which is a personal finance website. And he had just come from banking and he made me feel like everything was possible. He's like, someone would try to negotiate 5K more on their salary. I was managing the negotiation. He'd be like, are we really going to like lose out a person for 5K? And I was like, I guess not. That's nothing. And so being around him and how he would like make me feel like things were normal, that genuinely helped. I did negotiate a lot before that. I always negotiated, it's just, I hate being underestimated and I like to fight my own fears. I just want to like prove myself to myself a little bit. So that's where it came from. But
I'm taking some of this. I'm taking some of that. Like, I'm getting it through the screen. Like,
yeah, it's just like, the thing is though, that yes, you can ask. And there was an article written by actually a kind of friend of mine a while back. And it was like, negotiate like a white man does. That was the tip for women. And I was like, the way you need to take this off the internet immediately, because we can't walk in there. I couldn't walk in with the swagger of my Nick. I'll call him my Nick, because he would get in rooms that I wasn't in. But I did take from him that just go in with your full chest. But for us, it's really about it's having comparable offers and having other data to back up what we're asking for. It's not about the skills and the scope of work. It's like, but here's the market rate. Here's other competitors at similar size companies, and here's what they're paying their same talent. And this is my market rate. But even better, it's having competing offers. And but the point I was going to make really quickly is just that there's this belief that, for example, I'm a negotiation coach. I negotiate a lot. That I never get afraid. I never had the same feelings, the same doubts, the same. I have to do, every negotiation is a brand new one. I had to send someone my rates for my Instagram reels. And I was like, this is going to be too much for them. And I almost edited it. And I was like, girl, just send that thing on. Even I have those moments. You know? And it's just about pushing through them or having someone to help you.
Yeah. I think the thing is, I grew up extremely poor, so there's always that fear. But then I'm not afraid of somebody saying no. I'm afraid of when they say no, the hit that'll take to my account. Like if they're already a client and I'm like, this, I have to almost walk away, because if I just say, okay, you won't take it. And then it's going to be like, then I just stay there. I didn't prove, so I think that's the thing for me, is just like, what if they don't, but I have to trust that like it's going to work out. But at the taking advantage, I'm done. It's done.
It's really about setting the tone from the beginning with your partner, with your client, like set the tone, those contracts. I love that Michelle gave you contract advice for your book, just because that is such a crucial part of it. Like your contract as a consultant is crucial too. And you can negotiate so many things that just give you peace of mind. Yeah.
This is give me motivation. I'm like, yes. I'm thinking about my clients, like, what else can I negotiate?
Well, before you start going around working for the United Nations and get stationed, where's your dream country? Where would you want to go?
I would love to go on the continent.
I knew you were going to say that. I love that.
I'd say the continent. I'd say South Africa. Because, that's where I've been the most, and I know people there, and they also speak English. And, unfortunately, I don't have another, but I also have family in London. And so there's that too, but I need the sun. So I don't know about that, but I would say probably South Africa. But I also would go, I'm an explorer. Like my husband and I are both the same, where we're just like, we don't got kids. We don't plan on having kids. I will put stuff in storage in 5 minutes. Like you don't even gotta, before this podcast is over, the movers will be at the house. Like, I don't like send me because I'm just like, I don't know. I'll probably have to move back here for my parents eventually, or my husband's parents. I'm like, while they can do things on their own, let's go. And then we can come home. So that's why we're like, it has to happen. It has to happen in the next year.
Y'all got I would be like, get out while you can. Don't even get a job first. Just go. Just go be free.
Just go be free. And you know what? I'll be back. Yeah. But while I'm not,
jobs will be here when you get back.
Yep.
Whatever will be here when you get back.
Yep.
Your book. Okay, but now you're in the middle of a book launch.
Yeah.
What does that look like for you in terms of your business plan? How did the book, do you feel like,
Mm.
how are you hoping that that will turbocharge the business?
Oh, 100%. I think
Yeah.
that it's not just my hook and fasten business, which really focuses on corporations and communities like sustainable partnerships. It is more of this from imposter to impact because, that's a course I taught at Harvard. And it was interesting because I had to write the course and it was like a study course in the Institute of Politics. And I thought that, all these kids want to learn about policy and all these things, but the students came to me, specifically the Black students, and they were like, we saw you do a talk around imposter syndrome. Like, we feel that. Can you do that course instead? And so I taught that at Harvard, and this is really, and that's really what the book is based off of. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's a platform there that I'm going to jump off with the book, from imposter to impact, from workshop series. I do a lot of speaking now, but like workshop series, from cohorts. So all these things I feel like can be a part of the business. And I'm always afraid to jump into it because I naturally don't have a business state of mind. And I don't think that's a problem, but I'm always afraid, like when it comes to kind of creating content, I compare it to other people. So I'm like, Deesha, like, you've gotten this far. People relate to you. Like, people always like, you're so authentic. I relate to you, that I know putting in, like, so I just bought the domain, and then we're going to build the website with some workshops, some speaking things, some cohorts. So kind of just flip this notion of imposter syndrome being our fault, and, we need to continue to do all these things to prove ourselves. And it's just like, nah, like, no, you can do whatever you want, and whoever doesn't want to see you ain't going to see you. You got
Mm-hmm.
5 doctors, it's not going to happen, but that's not your fault. That's on them. So, like, how can we reverse that? So that is what, I'm looking to do. I'd say by the fall, back to school, I want to have all this fully launched. So yeah.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
if I can support in any way, because
Yes.
I
Oh,
would
don't
have
say, listen,
loved
Mandy,
that
don't
kind
be
of
saying
talk.
that, because I will call you back, girl, remember you said on the
I told you
thing.
I'm writing a book. I would love to procrastinate with you. Give me a
Oh no,
reason.
we gotta get your book done. We gotta get your book done. We gotta get your book. When did you sign your contract?
This time last year, but I had a baby. He was my excuse for like 6 months.
You know
Meanwhile, he's
what?
the easiest baby you could ever want to have. He's
Really?
not my excuse. It's just family stuff. A lot
Yeah.
BA
No, I
listeners, But
get it. I get it.
also I am like you. I am a writer. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
writer, an
Mm-hmm.
editor. I'm getting to write a book. You got to write a
Yes.
book, Deesha.
Yes.
This is our
Yeah.
dream. I'm like, I
Yes.
can't mess it up. I just want it to be
No.
so good.
No.
And that's
And
my
it's going to
constant
be
thing with
good
not even
because
good.
the audience is going to receive it. The right people will find. When I put this out, my
Mm,
biggest fear was like the critique that would come from it not being this well written, poised book. Because I was just
mm,
like, it is what it is. Like, I'm going to stop trying to put it in somebody else's voice. And
yeah.
people relate, especially Black women. They're just like, Deesha, your book is, that's all I hear. It's so relatable. So the
Mm.
book will find the right people. And of course, I have my little critics, but it is what it is. Like,
You
it's
really have to
fine.
like
It's
laser
fine.
focus on your audience.
You
And I'm
have
just
to.
like, pretend
You
you're
have
on an
to.
episode of BA.
Yep.
Am I
Yep.
getting all?
That's it. That's
I gave
it.
you all my vocal cords. Okay.
Yeah.
I love that too. From imposter to impact.
And I
Cause
hate the term imposter syndrome. I hate the term like authentic. I
yeah.
hate these terms too, but I'm always tell people, I'm like, those are terms that people know. So we're going to
Yeah.
use them until something else comes up. So that's what I'm
Meet them
going to
where
do.
they
So yeah,
are. A thousand
exactly.
percent. We had a
Exactly.
Ruchika Tolshan on the show. She wrote this
Yes.
really famous Harvard Business
Mm-hmm.
Review article and then a book where they took down imposter syndrome.
Yep.
But I agree. I mean, whatever you want to call it, a lot of us will look around and not feel welcome. And it's
Yeah.
often not. I was literally on a coaching call with this incredible woman earlier today. She just came off of a PIP and had gotten
Mm.
let go. And I was so happy to be there to pick her up because
Mm.
Tiffany has picked me up off the same floor before and just tell her what you went through is not okay. And the way that it ended, I'm glad that it ended for you. Like the her being the one, the only in her space and the
Mm.
burnout. I'm like, you weren't performing well because you were in a hostile work environment.
Mm-hmm.
And we so don't want to believe that because we just immediately punish ourselves,
100%.
you
a
know?
100%. Or we also look at it like, we know that it's systems, like we know that, but like we either spend so much time trying to change the system that, like, which, as long as it has the same people in power, it's going to be a constant uphill fight. So now I teach people, like, no, I need you to dig up the root of when you started feeling this way. What is it? and dig that up and replant some new roots. Like get yourself
Mm,
in a space where you know, no matter what comes to you, no matter who says what, no matter what let go, you know that you're valuable. You know what I
yeah.
mean? And it's hard because it was hard for me. But I think that when we get our foundation to be who we are and our value, the house that builds on top, if it blows
Mm,
away, then it's gone. The foundation is still there. But now we put all of our confidence and stuff in our achievements. And so it's like,
mm-hmm,
yeah, but now you're chasing constantly these highs. You know what I mean? Like
mm-hmm,
I didn't achieve the White House. It wasn't a fluke. It was because I'm a hardworking, community-minded person who like went forward. That's not going to change no matter what, right? The
yeah.
structure may change, but that's what I try to tell people now. It's just, and it's hard, like because these systems, again, like they're built for us to feel inferior, So yeah, but no
Let's.
more.
I want some more tidbits. I'm trying to think of like clever ways to ask you for some funny, like little tidbits about. We didn't talk about Obama enough. Barack. What is something that you will never forget that was like a little quirk of Barack
Oh,
Obama? It can be cute. It can be.
I think that Barack Obama, and I think people know this, like he's a dad, so his jokes are dad jokes. Sometimes they're really corny, and so he say something, but because he's a president, you just laugh. You're just like, that's so funny. And there's a picture of us that I love that we were laughing so hard because it really was a funny joke. We were talking about he's waiting to go on stage and at the White House, and I was backstage just talking to him, and he says we were talking about how Jay-Z during the 2012 election had changed lyrics to a song to be like, "I got 99 problems, but Mitt ate one," like Mitt Romney, and the
Oh.
president was like, "No, you can't say that." Like he was so backstage, like that doesn't sound like that's not okay, and we were and I was like, "Why not?" I mean, we were laughing so hard. So he was so culture forward, but like he was such a jokester. Like he was a jokester.
Mm,
Like it was just like people are like, he's too like I'm just like, you want your president to like have that side of him that's a little bit more light. Obviously, he also had the other side where he
mm.
was presidential, but like, he knew how to make a joke or have fun, and even last year in Australia, I was in Australia with them and the same way. Like he's
Why?
just like,
You just got
well,
an
well,
invite?
I still travel with them, so I still do advance for them once in a while. Like if they go somewhere fun,
Oh, you're
but
their
he was going,
personal travel agent.
well, not agent. It's more
Fixer.
like it's like an advance. So
Concierge.
advance is like you go ahead of them to set up everything. So
Yeah.
I go ahead, so I can go like he has a team that does that, but like they need more. So they
What do
want
they
the
have to have
paid
in their
team.
hotel room? What do they have to
So they
have?
have to have. We put fruit in there, fresh water,
What kind of fruit?
sparkling, and so apples, cut apples, loves
Oh, they're pre-cut.
apples.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, so usually pre-cut. I put pre-cut and non pre-cut in there.
Just in case they're feeling like they want a little workout.
A little spicy. Or maybe like some of the cut ones may look a little brown. So I'm like, what's together? Nuts. They love mixed nuts. So I put a lot of those in there. Bananas. So like fresh water, spring water, sparkling water. Yeah, I mean, they're regular old folk, And then usually hotels make an elaborate display of chocolate or flowers. And I'm always like, no, no, like you don't have to do all that because it just sits there. I'm like,
Yeah.
no chocolate tower with their faces or no with their books or like, but it's really nice. Like the hotels are so amazing with it, but like, I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
want you to waste stuff. So yeah.
So you got to prepare and like what? Make sure that the people don't know that they're there.
No, they know that they're there. I mean,
They
like,
have
I
to,
think
right?
it's more, yeah, it's more of just like the team that's coming, like who's, them checking in, so getting their room keys, making sure that the temperature's set in the room's clean. We have the schedule for like when the housekeepers are going to come, the food, like, making sure that all the outlets, that the Wi-Fi works, the remotes are easy to use. So like
Damn.
all those
I
things,
got to
like
get me one
just
of you.
making sure. Oh yeah. It's literally, it was the second job I had. So it wasn't as glamorous as obviously my big public job,
Yeah.
but it was my favorite. So when he went to Australia, we had just got married a year before. I got married in 2022, and we saved our honeymoon to New Zealand because I was going to Australia, which means my ticket was paid for. And then my
Ew.
husband came
Strategic.
on points because we paid for our wedding on our hotel points, or credit card, paid it all off, got the points. And then we went to Australia for New Zealand for our honeymoon. So like, I'm a hustler.
Listen, I hope this
So
writer who left you that review about your poor financial management just heard that,
I
because
know.
that was exquisite. It was everything
Yes.
I would have done and more.
I was just like, we got married in September, found out the Obamas were going, and I was like, oh, we can wait till when they go in May. We can wait till May to go on our honeymoon. And then my husband came, stayed in the hotel with me that was paid for, and then we went to, we only had to pay for New Zealand. That's it.
So a new
Just
a new career has been unlocked.
Yes.
For noteworthy people, or I guess people who can just can afford it. You can be a pre-vacation primer.
Mm-hmm.
Like just set it up. Oh my goodness.
It's called advance, and let me tell you, people need it because you don't have to. They never have to worry. They walk in the hotel as soon as they get to the hotel. I'm right there. I take them in the elevator, take them to the room, the gym. Like everything's set. The schedule. They have their personal aide there too. Like it's just a briefing book. Like everything's done, and people. I'm just like, y'all need this. You high powered individuals, call me.
Every mom needs it. Every mom needs it.
Yes.
Like, is this kid friendly? Is it not? Okay, I know you have a hard stop. I use so much of your time.
No, it was so fun. I know. I was like, I wish I lived near there and I would just come by.
Unabashedly, unashamed of using all your time. When you gave me that, I was like, oh, we're going to continue.
No,
it'll be 7 episodes if it needs to be. Okay. Y'all gonna get these gems.
Y'all gonna get these gems.
Deesha Dyer, I'm so glad that you came on the podcast. Jackson, you were right. This is a perfect place for her. Undiplomatic, How My Attitude Created the Best Kind of Trouble is out now. You guys go grab your copies. Make sure your libraries are stocking them. If you want Deesha to come give a talk, right? You do all kinds of stuff, you know.
I do it all.
She just did the Ford Foundation, so that's the bar. Okay.
Yes.
I'm just saying, your auntie's church, maybe not. What you're looking forward to, but maybe a virtual. Would you be down?
Yes, I would do a virtual. I do it virtual or corporate. I'm here for the corporate.
Here for the corporate budgets.
Here for the corporate budgets. Yes, yes.
Congrats on the book launch and your continued chapters. Whatever comes next for you.
Thank you, thank you. And we're gonna talk again. So
manifest it. No, my phone number. Remember, I make friends easy. I'm like, you be my friend.
Be my friend.
Get my phone number.
Hey, BA fam. We're on YouTube. Woohoo! Thank you so much for watching. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel.
And while you're at it, why don't you go over to that little bell icon and just tap that for us. Show the BA fam how much you love us. And that way you'll also get notifications when new videos drop. Also, share the channel with a friend. We're always like, tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend. And thank y'all so much again for all the support.